No mai haere mai. Welcome to 3 News. The cost of living has crept up again. Electricity prices shot up 14% compared to a year ago, while food prices increased 5%, driven once again by dairy products. Milk was up 16.3% year on year, cheese up 26.2%, and butter was up 31.8%. In a bid to drive fairer prices for Kiwis, the government today announced a clampdown on mergers. Law changes, it says, will prevent creeping acquisitions and predatory pricing. Nicola Willis singled out our biggest car parking company, Wilson Parking, as an example. But they say their last acquisition was a decade ago. Political correspondent Zane Small reports.
Wilson Parking, called out by the Minister of Finance for a business practice dubbed creeping acquisitions.
The example that I think of is that with Wilson's car parking, who people will have noticed has bought up car parking firms around the country. And certainly anecdotally and in the advice that we've been provided, there's little to no evidence that that has led to lower car parking prices for New Zealanders.
In a statement, Wilson Parking told us the last business it acquired was in 2015, which was cleared by the Commerce Commission. The spokesperson said there are several variables that affect parking prices. Wilson Parking rents the majority of its car parks, and its rentals are reviewed each year in accordance with inflation. The high period of inflation the country has been through has put an incredible amount of pressure on pricing.
We'll be taking a careful look.
It's part of changes the government is making to the Commerce Act, lifting the bar on which business mergers can proceed to ensure fair market competition.
We're going to give the Commerce Commission powers to look back at creeping acquisitions going back 3 years, and to determine whether actually those small transactions over a period of time have accumulated in a way that has crept a lowering of competition.
The government is also cracking down on what's called predatory pricing.
The example that is front of mind for me is in the grocery sector. I would hate to see a new entrant try and expand its supermarkets in New Zealand, only to find that the dominant firms priced low for a while, stamped out the competition, and then hiked up their prices afterwards. We can now be clear that the law prevents that.
But the caution here is that these kinds of changes are structural in nature and they take time to bear fruit. So this is very much one of those patient areas of policy reform rather than a big bang.
Tough luck if you're going to the supermarket today, because the latest figures show food prices increased 5% in the 12 months to August, once again driven by dairy products.
New Zealand families are really struggling at the moment. A higher price for butter, a higher price for milk. Mince is now $22 a kilo. That's suggesting that families are going to be really struggling just to get the basics in their grocery trolley.
It was, however, the first time in almost a year that food prices didn't increase month on month.
It's part of a story that prices are high, although the rises have largely stopped. The big exception here is dairy, because dairy prices have risen. That is good for New Zealand overall because of more revenue for farmers. It's very tough for households and families looking at the price of butter and milk and cheese. The real solution to all of this is for New Zealand to become a wealthier country.
So expect the government to put pressure on companies it suspects of preventing economic growth.
And Zane, the government is tonight also grappling with more news of job cuts.
That's right, we're hearing of 119 full-time roles on the line in Tokoroa in South Waikato as New Zealand company Carter Holt Harvey looks to close its plywood manufacturing plant at the Kinleith Mill, simply because it's cheaper to import the product here. Now, Carter Holt Harvey shares the Kinleith Mill with OG Fibre Solutions. And you may remember it was only a few months ago that OG Fibre Solutions closed its paper-making machine at the Kinleith Mill, and that cost around 130 jobs. So a very tough time for the town of Tokoroa as it deals with those enormous job losses. The local mayor, Gary Petley, has come out swinging at the government, saying it doesn't give a toss about regional New Zealand. I not long ago spoke with David Seymour, the Deputy Prime Minister, about this issue, and he said it is very concerning. But He suggested the issue was mainly to do with electricity generation and the high power prices that those manufacturing companies are paying, and he said the government is committed to improving that.
Zane, thanks so much.